Here's what's been happening lately. 3 things. First, the current system of property tax appeals puts an extra $2 billion on Cook County homeowners, according to the treasurer. Next, Chicago Public Schools moves ahead with a Black Student Success Plan despite Trump administration threats. And then lastly, the Illinois Secretary of State reminds residents that the DMV will continue issuing real IDs through May 7th. Let's break it all down. First up, according to Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas, Cook County is saddled with a broken system of property tax appeals that gives breaks to business owners and wealthy homeowners, while shifting nearly $2 billion of tax burden to the lowest income homeowners. Businesses landed at $25.5 billion in property valuation reductions through appeals, leading to $3.26 billion less on their tax bills, according to the report. Homeowners saw just $2.8 billion in their assessment reductions, but had an additional $1.9 billion added to their tax bills. Now, Chicago has had some of the worst disparities in Cook County. Businesses' tax bills dropped nearly 20%, while residents' bills increased by more than 16% during the 2021 to 2023 reassessment cycle. More than 250,000 households saw tax bills jump 25% or more in the same period, according to a recently published data from the Cook County Assessor's Office. Overall, county households making less than $50,000 a year saw their tax bills jump on average of nearly 10%, compared to half that for those making more than $150,000 annually between 2021 and 2023. South Deering, the East Side, and West Englewood saw some of the biggest increases, between 20 and 25%, after the appeals process. West Garfield Park and Washington Park, neighborhoods where residents spend the largest share of their income on housing citywide, saw similar increases. Meanwhile, the near West Side and near North Side saw some of the worst property tax increases in the same period, all around 10%, despite having median household incomes 4 times higher than those seeing their bills jump twice as much. About 64% of businesses filed appeals between 2021 and 2023, compared to 27% of homeowners, and nearly half of businesses filed one annually, while most homeowners only appealed once, according to the report. However, households in lower income areas that appealed saw an average of 7.3% increases to their bills, compared to 5.2% in higher income neighborhoods. Areas with median incomes between $75,000 and $99,999 saw the largest increase at 8%. Next up, the Trump administration has launched an investigation into Chicago public schools, alleging that a plan meant to improve educational outcomes for Black children discriminates against other races. The investigation in challenge targets Chicago's newly launched Black Student Success Plan, which they claim violates federal anti-discrimination laws by focusing on only one group of students. It's unlikely Mayor Brandon Johnson or CPS leaders or board members will bow to the Trump administration's demands, but fighting back does risk CPS funding. About $1.3 billion of CPS revenue, or 16%, comes from the federal government. Now, despite the investigation, an Illinois law, the one that created an elected Chicago school board, mandates CPS have a Black Student Success Committee to improve opportunities and outcomes for Black students. Now, CPS moved forward with the initiative last week, despite the federal complaint by the Virginia group. The school board launched the Black Student Success Committee to oversee and plan, and tapped board member, longtime activist Judy Brown as chair of the committee. Lastly, with just days away until Real ID requirements are set to begin at airports nationwide, Illinois Secretary of State is reminding residents that they can still obtain a Real ID after the federal enforcement period begins. Now, the Secretary of State's office is seeing ridiculously long lines at DMVs of residents who incorrectly think the office will stop issuing Real IDs after May 7th. Starting May 7th, most U.S. adults catching a domestic flight will be required to present a valid passport or state-issued identification card that meets federal Real ID standards. Now, you'll still be able to get a Real ID after May 7th, which is when the enforcement period theoretically will begin. It's not clear to what extent the Real ID requirement will be enforced starting May 7th. Now, passengers without a real ID or other acceptable identification, such as a passport, can expect to face delays, additional screening, and possibility of not being permitted into the security checkpoint, according to the TSA. Now, it's important to note that a real ID is not required to drive, vote, apply for federal benefits, or for general identification purposes or proof of citizenship, according to the Secretary of State's office. Still, some people are waiting in lines to get a real ID out of fear. Now, the Secretary of State's office has extended its Real ID Saturday DMVs program and Real ID Supercenter until at least the end of May to continue to meet the demand for Real ID services.